Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins team, welcome back! Welcome back. There's a lot going on right now, and by a lot, I mean almost nothing. Almost nothing. They announced they were going to do a Centennial team, top 100 Bruins, which is really fun. Mark McLaughlin just got signed to a one-year, two-way, $775,000 deal. That doesn't really do much for me. I know they wanted to keep him around, but also he might not see the NHL, but also he might. He's going to compete for fourth line minutes. But Robert Chalmers, also known as Ivan on Twitter, made a top 25 Bruins prospect list, and it inspired me to do my own because I disagreed with where a lot of these guys are. Now, that's what's fun about prospects, is the disagreement. Respectfully, Chalmers watches more prospect tape than I do. I know that he does. He's closer to the action. He's able to go to a lot of these events. I know he watches more, but I still have a little bit of a disagreement. I am going to link his article below if you want to take a look. I think that's only fair. I'm only doing 15. I'm only doing 15 because after 15, it feels like they get real interchangeable on where you could rank them, and it starts to get real dry as far as, you know, the excitement level of these prospects. We're going to go 15-1, and I'm basing these rankings off of floors and ceilings. There's going to be a little bit of contradiction at times. I'm going to do my best to explain through the video, but there are moments where one player's floor is so much higher than somebody else's, even though that guy's ceiling may be higher. He's just a better prospect overall because he's likely to make it farther than the other guy. I'll get into it. I'll explain. You know what I mean? Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. I always kind of forget to mention that there's Twitter below, Discord below, Redbubble store for a bunch of different designs that you can get on all sorts of different products, t-shirts, things like that. We did order the Habs jersey for the winner of the bracket challenge. That hurt my feelings a lot. I was going to say a little. It hurt my feelings a lot, but good for him. I'm excited for him to get it. It's just Habs fan. God, what are the odds? But let's jump into this list with a fan favorite for a lot of you guys. I don't know how many of you actually know the name, but I think some of you do. Jackson Edward, 19 years old, 6'2", 195 pounds, left defenseman. Why is this guy 15th on the list? I could have put a lot of players here. Really could have. I debated about a lot of different names. But Edward is the most fun. That's literally the whole reason I did it. He's a people deleter. He sees people, he deletes people. That's what he does. Is he a good skater? No, not really. Got hands? Nope. But boy, can he absolutely and violently end people's careers. It's genuinely concerning how little of a concern he has for his safety and others. He doesn't have much more than that. He's a defenseman that will be a defensive defenseman if he ever makes it, and will specialize in keeping the front of the net clear and really, really getting excited about guys with their head down. That's it. But Jackson Edward, long shot to make the NHL, is number 15. And we're actually sticking with the defensive side of things here. Ryan Mast, one of my favorite prospects, actually. 20 years old, 6'4", 215-pound right defenseman. And as Andrew from the Short Shift Pod, check it out, would say, he's a lot of tools without the toolbox. He just is going to need some time to put it all together because he's actually shocking to watch him play. A big body that looks like he should be tripping over his own feet while he's skating, but really does a good job of staying on his feet and can actually surprise you with how often he makes people miss. In general, you get him on the blue line, and for some reason, players feel like they can just attack him, and he kind of just scoots around them. Now, in a professional league, I assume that's going to be a lot harder to do, but he has that uncanny ability to get the puck past the first guy, get it into a dangerous area. He's not an offensive threat. He's still going to be more of a defensive defenseman. He's a decent defender in that role. But he did produce pretty decently last year in the OHL. 30 points in 51 games. Remember, the OHL has pretty high point totals, but he still needs a ton of work. And there's no guarantee he actually makes the Providence Bruins this upcoming year, although I do believe he will. His skating and speed are lackluster. It feels like he pulls his punches too often for his size, and when you think he's going to blow somebody up, he kind of doesn't. But he's got pretty good hands for a big man and thinks the game pretty well. I expect him to surprise some people in Providence in a lower pairing role, but a guy that you really enjoy watching on the ice. Those two players, Jackson Edward and Ryan Mast, are the two that are really going to struggle to actually get to the NHL. But as we go forward from this point, all of these guys have a route. They're still tricky, and some of them have trickier routes than others, but there is a real path to the NHL for them. And at number 13, Andre Gausseau, 20 years old, 6'4", 205-pound, big old boy center. He is a monster. But he's not just a monster in size. He had 29 points in 36 games at Boston College last year. He has good hands, strong shot. And one of our favorite things about this prospect is his ability to just get the puck where he wants it to go regardless of the position he is in. A lot of your force when it comes to shooting the puck or passing the puck, it comes from the torque that your body can create. A lot of hips, a lot of back. That is something that he can do really well, even in positions where it doesn't look like he's able to. It looks like the puck's too far forward, too far back, he's off balance, doesn't matter. It flings off of his stick. Honestly, he has a lot of reason to be higher on the list. He's pretty decent defensively. He's clever with his positioning when it comes to the offensive zone and the neutral zone. He tends to stop rush attacks pretty well on his back check. So there's a lot that you like about his game. But the problem is, it feels like a lot of those things are going to get snuffed out at higher levels. Although he's fun to watch and exciting right now, and Boston College should be interesting this next season, most of his talents, it feels like a good NHL defender or AHL defender is going to snuff out really quickly and pretty easily. There's a lot of flashy moves that he can pull off to get around defenders that just won't work when a full body is on you. Not in my opinion. The off-balance thing does make him a lot more intriguing, though, just because he's so effective at being pushed off the puck and still getting it back and getting it where he wants to go. So definitely some upside with him. He could be a lot higher than 13th, but it's really hard for me to see him put it all together in a way that the professional game is going to be there. And in a very different sense, here comes Riley Duran at number 12. He's a 21-year-old, 6'2", 180-pound center. A 6th-round pick in 2020 who just keeps trucking. And while Gausseau has all this talent and these clever abilities to help him get around non-professional players, Duran's game is built off of motor. That's simply what it is. He had 20 points in 29 games last year with Providence College. Offensively, he's been enough. But where he really excels is his non-stop engine. His work ethic is second to none, full stop. He will not be outworked on the ice. He plays every single shift as if it is his last shift ever. And so while Duran doesn't have a lot of those talents, right? Obviously, he's a very talented kid, but when you're looking at prospects in the NHL and the greatest league in the world, you need talent. And he might not have that. But what he does have is a work ethic beyond anything you can really imagine. He just works harder than everyone else. He's responsible defensively, responsible in the offensive zone. He works hard on the boards. He wins pucks. He will not be shoved around. 180 pounds is not heavy. Not heavy in the pro leagues. And he is not getting pushed around by anybody because he is just going to stick to it. His ceiling is a fourth-line grinder, shutdown presence, but he will be loved by his teammates and loved by fans. Some guys have the talent. Duran has the work ethic. And it's hard to see this guy not making the NHL. It really is difficult for me to see that. Because the way he works, I just feel like he'll carve out a role for himself in a fourth-line presence. Which is pretty exciting because that means already at number 12, we have a guy that I truly believe makes the NHL. So the assumption would be everyone above him should make the NHL. And no, that's not technically true. But all of them either feel like they're making the NHL or have higher ceilings and lower floors. Some of those are going to be interesting to talk about. One of those being is Oscar Jelvic. 20 years old, 5'11", 180-pound left wing. 17 points in 34 games with BC last year. Honestly, does a lot well. Really nice shot, nice vision. Skating is decent and controls space really well. A lot to like about how he positions himself around the ice and his ability to start a play up ice. But the biggest problem I'm seeing with him is he defers so often. And actually, we're going to talk about another guy like that in just a second. It's hard for me to see somebody make that next step when they, at this level, at the college level, are not driving their own line. It's one of those big red flags to me. Some people don't think it's that big of a deal. I do. And although I really love what Jelvic can do, there's a really big gnawing doubt in my mind just because he takes the back seat way too often. Way too often. I'm not sure if it's a lack of confidence or coaching or what, but I could see him as a third line NHLer, kind of your trigger man if he gains that kind of confidence, because he has really nice vision, really nice shot, likes to drag behind the play going into the zone so he can collect and fire it. But there's just so many shifts where you just go, where is he? Where is he? And he's not great as a defender either, which, you know, that's usually a decent path to move up levels if you're shutting people down, but he doesn't really have that. And so like I just mentioned, Duran's absolute ceiling is your fourth line shutdown presence, and his floor is, you know, AHL to NHL, AHL to NHL, right? But Jelvic's floor is never sees the NHL, but his ceiling is a real contributing member of a top 9 on an NHL squad. So you see how I'm trying to kind of stack these guys. And at number 10, we have the most infuriating prospect in the Bruins system. So infuriating. John Beecher, 22 years old, center, 6'3", 210 pounds. Big frame, big body, fast. My God, is he fast. It's to be that size and move that quickly, fantastic. Penalty killing, shutdown presence. He changes the landscape of a penalty kill. That's how good he is. 5-on-5 defensively, sturdy as fuck. He's sturdy. He gets in the way. Excellent defensively. Excellent on the penalty kill. Excellent from the dot. And fast. How could a player like that not be so freaking exciting? Well, I'm really glad you asked, because he's behind 3 other center prospects I have on this list who all have harder paths to the NHL right now. And he's behind all of them. And I'll tell you why. He shies away from contact offensively and sort of defensively as well, though he wins a lot of board battles defensively. But offensively, he could be on time for a forecheck, loses the board battle, doesn't lay a hit, just shies away, tries to read the play too often. Okay, not the end of the world, right? Maybe he's not your first guy in the forecheck. He's a centerman after all. He'll be playing the center of the ice, right? Right. Here's the other problem. He doesn't have eyes for the net. He doesn't. He defers to teammates all the time, which is so frustrating because he is Coyle-esque with possession. It is so hard to take the puck from him. It's so difficult to do. You can't dislodge him. That big frame, decent reach, good hands, just doesn't have an eye for the net, and he always defers. So then why can't he be a top 6 pivot that focuses on facilitating? Well, it's because when I say he doesn't have an eye for the net, I mean it. 23 points in 61 games played for Providence, and 14 were assists. 9 goals in 61 games. He he will be a really solid fourth line center. A really good one. A really good one. Which is a guy you need. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at the guy play and you're just always saying, why can't he be more? Why can't he be better? Because he has so many attributes that are better than a fourth line shutdown role. And he just doesn't play the game that way, man. Shies away from the contact, doesn't get into the dirty areas, and doesn't have eyes for the net. It's going to be really hard for him to push farther up our lines. And I don't think the Bruins organization even sees him like that. They're excited about him as a cheap fourth line guy. I mean, that feels pretty clear to me that that's what they're looking at him with. Which good. Again, we need it. And you're going to like him in moments. You're really not going to like him in others. So, God, that's frustrating. I'm getting frustrated just thinking about it. How about we talk about someone who's the exact opposite once again? It's kind of weird how this has been working out. At number 9, we have Frederick Berube, 19 years old, 6'2", 185-pound left defenseman, left shot, 73 points in 66 games in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Offensively, he's brilliant. Defensively, he's kind of a mess. Kind of a mess. Definitely a couple years away. But man, when his game clicks and he's in the offensive zone, he's a joy to watch. He gets puck through traffic. He's a strong puck carrier on the blue line. He's not afraid to walk that line and turn it over. He's clever with his vision, and he just knows when to pull the trigger. Really, really good about that. Also, you know how when Mike Riley 2 years ago would do this lovely little move where he'd go down the left wall, and then right before he got past the net, circling around right before he goes behind the net, he dishes it off for a bumper shot as the goalie's eyes are looking to the right. Shot comes from there before he even knows what's going on. Oh, he likes that move too. He does. He has no problem carrying the puck into the offensive zone and down below the net. If he could get his defensive game going a little bit, get a little more engaged when he's not looking at making a play, like away from the puck, if he could be a little more engaged, he could put together a strong second pairing, offensive defenseman, power play specialist, maybe third pairing. But there's a map. There's a real roadmap to him making the NHL as a fun NHL defenseman that drives you nuts sometimes with the stuff he allows in the defensive zone. But still, he's got a path, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Didn't have the greatest camp, though. At number 8, Brett Harrison. Admittedly, a guy that I am not in love with, but I can't deny what his potential is. 20 years old, 6'2", 185-pound centers. The good news, as you're watching along, we have like 4 or 5 centers on this list. And although their ceilings aren't all top 6 guys, it's clear that the team has really put to work trying to find center replacements. Oh, we're in for a scary future, but that's okay. 69, nice, points in 57 games in the OHL. Strong body with a good reach, and he uses it really well. He probably tops out as a third-line center in the best-case scenario. One of those prospects that just quietly goes about his progress. He's decent in the defensive zone, strong-ish offensively. Again, the OHL, a lot of points in that league. Not a lot of flash or style, but he plays strongly in all 3 zones. He's a guy that's reliable, that when you put out on the ice, you see a guy that you can trust. You know what you're getting from him. His best attribute, in my opinion, is he sees a developing play really well and often kind of gets in there right on time to either disrupt or make a play. So I really do enjoy watching him think the game. He also has eyes for the net, has a really nice shot, and shooters are going to shoot. And this guy is a shooter. So if he ends up being a third-line center winger, maybe, where that ends up being your trigger man for a bottom 6 grouping, I'd be pretty happy with that. His ceiling, absolutely, though, keeps him on that third line. I don't think he's a true top 6 guy. But this is where we start getting to the guys with the high ceilings. High ceilings. And at number 7, Brandon Boosie. Yes, Beans, he's not number 12. You're welcome for that. I wanted to put him at number 12 just to screw with you. This is just a conversation between me and one guy. Sorry, guys, just a second. I wanted to put him at number 12 just to screw with you, and I just literally couldn't because it just didn't make sense to me. 25 years old, so the age is really the big reason why I differ so much from Chalmers, because he, I believe, kind of quotes his age and says he's not as high of a prospect because he doesn't have that much more developing left. But he is a 6'5", 210-pound athletic goalie. This past season, he had 2.4 goals allowed average and a .924 save percentage through 32 games played with the Providence Bruins. He continues to succeed at every level, though. If you go back through his history, you'll see a couple bad, down years or interesting things like that. But for the most part, he just continues to succeed no matter what level he's playing at. He's a strong goalie prospect. We know goalies don't age out from that prospect kind of ideology until really your mid to late 20s when they truly are not making the NHL. He's a late bloomer or maybe a late find. I'm not really sure. I'd like to see him get some NHL time. The big concern with him is although he's athletic and confident, not everyone can be athletic and confident in the NHL. Oftentimes you see these guys who rely on their athleticism get beat by the faster pace of the NHL or the faster thinking of the NHL. He's going to get wrong-footed probably pretty often his rookie season up in the big league. But I don't think there's enough there to truly doubt he could be a really good backup in the NHL. I don't think he's going to be a number one, especially not a championship level number one. But I do believe he belongs in the NHL. I promise you I'm not being biased. I promise. I truly believe that at number 6, Mills deserves to be here. 19 years old, center prospect, 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, small guy right now. Small guy. Widely referred to as my son at this point, which, if you actually think about it, is really fucking creepy. It's really weird. I'm a grown-ass man. He's basically a grown-ass man too. But I'm going to lean into it. My son! My boy! He continues to exceed expectations at every level. And the funniest thing about it is he always starts as like a healthy scratch at the beginning of a tournament or a league season. And by the end of the season, he's in their top 6 and scoring important goals. It's just how it works, and I expect the same thing at UMass this year. UMass Amherst is getting one hell of a prospect. He's going to come in, they're going to put him on the 5th line and go, we'll see when we get you in, and he's going to get some play time, and they're going to see the immediate chemistry. He downloads chemistry from his teammates and just makes them better, and he'll start moving up the ranks. Here's the thing. This is why people struggle with him right now. Athletically, he's not a specimen. He's not. I want you to think of Krejci. Was Krejci ever super fast? Was he ever a big body that knocked people off pucks? Was he able to get in the dirty areas and outfight people? No, that's not what Krejci's game was. Krejci was the master of time and space. He had vision. He saw plays develop full seconds before they were actually possible. He understood the game to such a high level that he didn't need all that other garbage. He could just win. And that's what Lot Mills is. He controls timing and space on the ice like no one else. He's a 200-foot prospect. He plays every single zone and sees the game well in every single zone. I mean, it's brilliant to watch. It's brilliant. And the best part about it is sometimes you're watching and he adds so much deception to the game that you can't see, that you don't see. The amount of things I've read from scouts on this guy about the way he shifts his eyes, the way he changes his balance, and players just react to it and he goes the other way. There's so much deception that sometimes you'll watch a play and you go, what the fuck was the defender doing? Left it wide open. And it's the defender's fault, but it's because of something that Lot Mills did. His vision, his anticipation, and his control of space are, and I didn't use this word at all yet, elite. He has the ability to be a true top 6 center. Now, in the modern game, I don't think he's a 1C, but I think he can be a very good 2C. A championship caliber 2C. That's his ceiling in my mind. Is that bold and brash because we're probably still a few years away from even seeing if that might be possible? Yes, but I believe it. This guy is something special, and I will believe that until I cannot believe it any longer. I just have so much appreciation for his game. I wanted him in the top 5 so bad, but his floor is a very good AHL player. So I just couldn't move him up anymore because he is not a guarantee to make the NHL. He has to continue to exceed expectations as he's been doing and as I believe he will. But he still has a lot of progress to go. Physically, he does need to be more. He doesn't have to be elite in the physical specific words, but he does need to be more. He has perhaps the widest gap from ceiling to floor than any player on this list. God, I love him so much. What a great prospect to have in your system. What a fun, interesting, exciting prospect to follow. Just love it. And we get to go right into one of my other favorite prospects at number 5, Merkulov. 22 years young, 5'11", 185-pound winger. And he is an assassin. 55 points in 67 games as an AHL rookie, a quiet player in a sense. He is. Offensive game is clever and fun. He has great vision and a really nice shot when he uses it. He really likes to set up in the circle and hammer away one-timers. The kind of one-timer that when he hits it, you go, damn. And you kind of feel bad for the goalie a little bit, even if they stop the shot. He evaporates pucks, dude. He just evaporates them. He's so fun to watch because when I say quiet player, I mean he's slinking around the zone, he parks himself, someone gets him the puck, and whoa! He hammers it. You just don't see it coming all the time. And his defensive game, he's very quiet on the defensive side because he might not be there. He might not be there. It's improved. But he's not great defensively. No one's going to make that argument. His ceiling in the NHL is a an excellent third-line trigger man who can facilitate as well. That's not his whole game. In fact, you could actually say he probably defers too often with how good his shot is. But a third-line trigger man who can play second-line minutes in a pinch and still kind of hold water there. He is a fantastic offensive hockey player. Really lacks something on a defensive zone, and he get lost in the neutral zone a little often too. He doesn't have the whole package. He's still working on it. He's 22 years old. He's still improving. He's a guy that has had to work for every piece. Again, he's not that uber talented that just flies through these ranks. Nope, he's grinding his way up, and we should see him on Coyle's wing a little bit this year, and I'm really excited about it. Really excited. And if he really shows out in camp, I wouldn't be surprised. Current roster as it is, I assumed Coyle was our third line. I keep saying Coyle because I just assume Bergeron's coming back. But lines as they currently are, Merkulov has a chance to show out in camp and be the second left wing right out of camp. He has a chance. That'd be crazy, but he has a chance. Fun prospect. Also, when he scores, he doesn't celebrate. I love it so much. It's so fun to watch. Ugh. The possession game between Coyle and him would be phenomenal. Oh, I want it. I need it. So now I need that. Do you know what you need, though? You need a little Topo. Little Luke Toporowski. 22 years old, 5'11", 185-pound winger, plays bigger than his size. You want a guy to be a fan favorite? This is your guy. 29 points in 47 games with Providence last year. Likely the point totals would have been a bit better if he wasn't dealing with some reported injuries. This man is what you call a fan favorite. You want to see him on the Bruins the next 2 seasons. You want to. He's physical. He's angry. And he's determined. Got something to prove. Just the chip on the shoulder type of player. How do you not root for that? Riley Duran is the ultimate I'm rooting for him prospect because he just works. Toporowski works. And he's not afraid of anyone either. You need a guy to stand next to a 230-pound defender, 6'4", cracking skulls in the slot. Toporowski is there, no questions asked. You need a guy that makes opponents keep looking over their shoulder. I bet his favorite one-liner on the ice is keep your head up, bud. I bet you that's true. You need a guy to punish a defender for being late to retrieve a dump in. He's on his ass like a fat kid on a cupcake. I'm telling you, this guy is going to make a lot of people very happy and very sore. Very, very sore. He has no concern. Another guy who has no concern for his own safety as well. He just goes for it. And you know what? We already talked about all the fun stuff. What about his shot? An absolute pill of a shot. Loves to get to the dirty areas. Doesn't care the beating he's taken. And he cleans up the messes directly in front of goalies. And he can do it defensively too. His ceiling? Probably third line. Probably. You want him in your bottom 6. But boy, is he going to be a valuable guy when he's on his game. Just a valuable guy. Oh, can't say enough fun stuff about him. Really can't. We just signed him. Just re-signed him. How exciting. And now, I bet you're guessing who the top 2 are. We'll get there in a second. But number 3 is important. Because number 3 was a pick I didn't like. I didn't think highly of. And even this last season, I was arguing against it. But here we are. Matthew Patois. I know I don't say that name right, but it's so fun to say Patois. Patois. It's just fun to say, man. I mean, I did this with Lucic. I've called Lucic for 15 years, right? When you're just around your friends, no one calls you out for your mispronunciations. You just get used to them. You just say them, right? When you're doing this, people call you out. And you realize like, oh yeah, I know I say that incorrectly, but I've never corrected it because no one's cared. So I'm going to work on the Lucic stuff. But yeah, Patois is just like that. I just don't want to say his name correctly. 19 years old, 5'11", 170-pound center. His camp was brilliant. But his last season, 95 points in 63 games in the OHL. I can't believe I have him this high on the prospect list. Because again, I didn't like him. Don't love everything about his game. Defensively, he gets lost too often. That's really my biggest qualm, actually. His size isn't great, but he's 19. We'll see how that goes. But you want a guy with confidence? That's him. You want a guy who wants to move through a player, who wants to make the big play? That's him. You want a guy who can finish off that same play? Yeah, that's him. He has the potential to be a top 6 pivot in the greatest league on the greatest franchise. It's hard to find a comparable to him too, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. He's not overly physical, but does have a bit of a nasty side. Definitely doesn't shy away from the dirty areas. He's very crafty in small areas. He'll win puck battles based not on his size, but on his talent and skill and intelligence. There's a lot about his game that you just find fun. And he thinks it. Because you know how we talk about Pastrnak being a fling and pray kind of guy? He sees the play and he goes, I can do that, and tries to pass it through 3 defenders. Well, Patois isn't like that. He sees that play and goes, I'll hold. And he waits. He lets it develop. He creates space for himself, finds a pass that makes sense, and boy, does he get the puck there with some fucking whip. He is a joy to watch. He really is. His skating isn't great, which is one of the biggest knocks on him. But if he improves that, and even if he doesn't, it's not holding him back all that much. Got a great motor, too. I guess he's kind of Marchand-esque in a lot of ways. A lot of the things I just said, you can also say about Marchand, but he is a different player. But even at a smaller stature, he outworks much larger opponents, and he wins those board battles. He's in the OHL next year again, unless miraculously he makes the NHL, which I don't see happening. Which is a damn shame. Because the thing that's going to stop him is if he cannot maintain this kind of level, not the point totals obviously, but this kind of level of play at a professional pace. When the game speeds up, can he still make those plays? I don't know. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like the guy doesn't have that level of potential. Top 6. One of my least favorite picks of the past couple of years. And he's proven me wrong so far. You love to see it. Your top 2, you've guessed it. You must know it. If you're not big on the prospects, maybe you don't, but that's okay. Everyone's at a different level of research. I'm not going to judge you on that. Number 2. God, I switch these a lot. I really flip between them a lot. Mason Laurie, 22 years old, left defenseman, 32 points in 40 games at Ohio State University last year, 28 of those points being assists. He's a trickster. He's Loki. That's what he is. He's a big Loki. He's a confusing player to watch. At his size, his skating ability, his puck work, get him in a phone booth. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because you're not going to get an advantage on him by putting him in a tight spot. He's a better puck handler than you. He's bigger than you. Good luck. Wins board battles, blocks shots. Not as physical as you want him to be. He's very Carlo-esque in the way he defends, using his reach, using his positioning. So I know that's going to frustrate some of you right out of the gate. But a fantastic defender. And he will either be a complimentary first pairing D to a team's true number 1 or a second pair stud. I flop between him and Liesel for number 1, but his ceiling is just a little bit lower than Liesel's. But Laurie has plenty of reason to be confident and probably has a more inside track to make the NHL this season. His ability to retrieve pucks and start a play going the other way quickly, McAvoy-esque. I mean, he's not McAvoy, but he's got a mixture of those abilities. He defends like Carlo. He moves the puck like McAvoy. He's just not super physical, and once in a while can get lost a little bit defensively when he gets puck watching or tries to overdo a pass or, overbake a play a little bit. Fantastic prospect, though, and I'd be surprised if we don't see him a couple times this season at the very least. And of course, at number 1, that means Fabian Lee, 20-year-old right wing, 5'11", 175 pounds, left shot. So he does what Pastrnak does, where he's on the right side, but he has a left shot. 37 points in 54 games last year for the P Bruins. One of the best young skaters in the world. I mean that. I do mean that. He is one of the best young skaters on the planet. He's fantastic on blades. Really nice shot, too. Excellent vision, elite vision, I would argue. Not great defensively, but are we really shocked by that? Last year was a roller coaster, though. Some strong stretches of point production, followed by a terrible World Juniors, a sluggish finish to the season, little bit of injury trouble at moments. Of course, also had the concussion during camp. But the big excuse here is being banged up and playing a lot of hockey the last year. He's going to benefit from a little bit of time off and a fresh start at camp, where it seems that he's really going to try to push to make the team. There is concern because it seems like every time you hear about the guy or watch anything on the guy, they're talking about his size, his ability to keep the puck when a bigger body comes down on him. Is he removed the puck too easily? Is he going to be a turnover machine? Is he going to be able to pull off those fancy moves that he wants to against stout defensemen? I don't know. But his ceiling, his absolute ceiling, is maybe not a superstar, but a championship caliber second line right wing. And of course, whenever I say a championship level second line right wing, I mean he could also play on a top line and be solid. But if you're going to look at your lineups the way that, hey, this team could be a cup contender, he's probably not the first line on a cup contender. Maybe. God, that's a stretch, though. That's a little bit of a stretch for me. Either way, great prospect. And I think you can argue, you look at this and you've got, only 4 or 5 of these guys might be top 6, top 4 guys. Maybe. But there's some real gems in there. And there's always room for surprises. So I'm pretty psyched about this crop. I really want to see, I'm expecting to see at least 3 of these guys in the NHL this year. Maybe as high as 6. We'll see. just varying from what we need, of course, injuries and whatnot. But not a bad list. Kind of fun to go through. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking about it, just kind of ranting about it. Good times, man. What a fun. Who has more fun than us? I miss hockey so much. Someone please shoot me with a tranquilizer bullet, so that I can wake up in September. Does that make sense? God, I feel like I rambled a lot there. But that does it for me. Like, comment, subscribe. Go Bees. Go Bees!